I'd like to now call our panelists and our moderator to the stage. Our moderator is on the front line of hunger every day, helping feed many local families in need. Amy Marvin is president and CEO of the Hawaii Food Bank, the largest nonprofit agency that provides food assistance to the state of Hawaii. Their mission is to ensure that no one in the entire Hawaii Ohana goes hungry. Previously, Amy was the senior vice president and COO of Bishop Museum, where she spearheaded the museum's Hawaiian Hall restoration campaign. She graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University with a bachelor's degree in environmental science and public policy before earning a master's degree in psychology, marine mammal behavior and biology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She's a 2018-2019 Omidyar Fellow. Please give a warm welcome to Amy.
Aloha, thank you so much, Denise. I'm really excited to be here. And I know you guys might be thinking, oh, what is Hawaii Food Bank doing in a discussion about food waste, because we are a distributor, which of course we are, but I wanted to share with you guys that food rescue is actually a really important part of our business model. And the modern food banking movement was actually founded on this idea of keeping food out of the waste stream, good food out of the waste stream, and getting it to those who need it. So every morning at 5 a.m., our trucks are on the road. They're going to Safeway and Costco and Sam's Club. They come back to the warehouse. We have a whole group of volunteers and staff who sort through the food, make sure it's safe, and then we get it out to the community through a network of about 200 partner agencies. And last year, we were able to rescue about 11 million pounds of food from the waste stream through that process. So, yay! And of course, not all the food that we get. You guys know, you go to Costco too. A lot of times, the food that we see in the retail stores, it's already been on a boat for a week before it gets here, and so sometimes it's kind of on its last legs. So the retailers will donate food that's kind of nearing the end of its shelf life. So we do get waste. About 15 to 20% of the food that is donated to the food bank through these different streams, we can't give it to people. It's not safe for human consumption. So we work with pig farmers, and we've just started working with several composters to try to, again, keep as much food as possible out of the waste stream. So wanted to share that with you guys. And I think this is just a really important topic. I'm so excited to hear the conversation tonight. So I would like to start by introducing our panelists. And first, I would like to introduce Poni Askew. And Poni, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Aloha, I'm Poni Askew. I'm representing Hawaiian Vinegar Company tonight. Some of you might know me best as one of the founders of Street Grinds and Eat the Street in Honolulu Night Market, but I'm going to talk about tonight our COVID pivot. So,
all right, thank you, Poni. And next is Henry Gabriel.
Henry Gabriel, City and County of Honolulu, the Refuse Division Recycling Program Branch Chief. There's a lot of familiar faces out there that I've worked with over the years and the decades ago. So this is a hot topic. And, hopefully what all of us say, what we can discuss, will find solutions to this issue with food waste.
Mahalo, Henry. And Amy Tomiyama.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amy Tomiyama. I'm with EcoFeed, Inc. We're a food waste recycling company for large food producers. And I have been with the company for 10 years. And recently, 2.5 years ago, I was promoted to the position of president. And I'm excited to be here tonight with the rest of the panelists to talk about food waste. Thank you.
Mahalo, Amy. And Dexter Kishida.
Thank you. We have two city and county people here today. I know, I'm so excited. They never let us out usually. I'm Dexter with the City and County's Office of Economic Revitalization and the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, Resiliency, because I need that much supervision usually. And partly I get to have the fun job of kind of getting to think about stuff all around the food system. And one of the things I'm really excited about and trying to ensure it's inserted in our language more is really the concept of cradle to cradle, that our food doesn't end just at either H-Power, a dump, or a waste basket, but we've got to turn it back to going back to the nutrient cycle and to our food, to what I'm going to eat. And so a couple projects that I'll share a little bit later is our Oahu Compost project, looking at small restaurants, and this project specifically in the Chinatown area, and diverting the food waste to a biodigester, and then a project going on in Windward, Oahu, that's composting something like 57 tons of school food waste in seven schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Dexter. That's awesome. All right, I want to start out with a question for the other Amy with EcoFeed Hawaii. Can you talk to us a little bit? You know, EcoFeed works with so many large waste producers, restaurants, schools, you know, big hospitals. How do you do that? What is the business model for EcoFeed? How does that work?
Sorry, I have something prepared. EcoFeed, the food waste EcoFeed services is recycled either into animal feed or for composting. Most produce that comes from the grocery stores and produce companies that we service is recycled for compost. Other customers we service, which ranges from small restaurants to large shopping center food courts, produces waste from food prep to after waste, locally referred to as slop. Slop is recycled as animal feed, but it is a much more of a difficult product to recycle due to the high possibilities of contaminants that can get mixed into the food waste that is being recycled. Although there is a misconception of pigs being able to eat anything, that is not true. The rule of thumb is if you can consume it, it can go into the food waste container. We work with and conduct training sessions with these customers, management and staff, to avoid having contaminants such as napkins, paper goods, silverware, plastic trash bags mixed into the food waste. We also work closely with the USDA inspector to ensure the farms we work with are USDA certified. The containers that are used to collect food waste are cleaned and sanitized at our facility to benefit both our customers and the animals that the food waste would be fed to. Many of the customers we work with sees the benefits in separating their food waste from their trash. Separating wet waste from the trash stream makes it less messy and smelly, but most importantly, it is the right thing to do, from keeping it from going into the landfill. It also supports our local farms. Not to mention, many local families consume local pork in the form of the popular kalua pig or lechon. It is a Hawaii delicacy, and for some families, a tradition to have it as part of their main dish. I believe the customers we work with want to do the right thing, but it also has to make sense and also be economical. I believe Hawaii businesses support recycling if it is cost effective. With education and training, we can successfully recycle food waste.
Thanks so much, Amy. That's super interesting. My next question is for you, Poni. And I think you come to this with a really interesting perspective, both as a small business owner, but also the CEO of large popular events like Eat the Street. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you came up with the idea for the Hawaiian Vinegar Company and working with producers to address food waste through your company?
Sure. I'm smiling because Eat the Street Street Grinds was founded in 2009 or 10, so it's a long story. But I've got 3 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. Street Grinds worked in its lifespan probably with over 700 small business owners. And through that time and working with the small business owners, my husband and I had this idea of, well, Street Grinds was created initially to support Hawaii's smallest food businesses, right? Food trucks, street food vendors. And we really saw an opportunity to support the next food producers, which are our farmers. And if we could bring together all of our food vendors and create like a top 10, most used food items, tomatoes, onions, all these things, maybe we could pull the farmers and the food vendors together. We didn't realize that we were opening Pandora's box when we started down that journey. And, this is when FSMA came out, right, with Obama and the GAP certifications, and there was all of these things that we started to like peel away the onion layers, literally stinky onion layers. And so, you know, in that process, in that journey, what we did learn was the challenges and the struggles of the farmers. And one statistic that really hit home for us was the amount of waste that a farmer can't use because of off-grade, ugly products. We know a lot of these things now, but we were just learning about that back then. This was 6 or 7 years ago we started learning about it. How much waste a farmer has to sacrifice, right, in the growing process. And, you know, arguably there's a statistic out there, but it could be anywhere from 30 to 50% of what a farmer grows is not sold, whether it's tilled back in the ground or whatever have you. And, you know, we started thinking about, well, gosh, that's terrible, right? Like what our farmers are struggling, and 50% of what they're growing goes back in the ground. That's ridiculous. And so, needless to say, we did not create a street grinds farm. You know, like we were not going to go down that road, but we were really inspired by all the things that we did learn around waste and what is it then that we can do, right? So we tried to learn something for one thing, and it turned into learning about something else. And then what kind of impact can we make, not just on our, you know, we had the momentum going with street grinds, but now how do we support our farmers? And that's where that journey of the vinegar company started.
Thank you, Poni. Henry, this question is for you. So we talk about reduce, reuse, recycle. Jack Johnson even sings about it. You know, it's something we think about a lot. But I know there's a lot more to this issue. Can you share with us, you know, what do you envision as the future of food waste here in Hawaii?
Well, first of all, for the city and county of Honolulu, Oahu itself, there's roughly 160,000 tons of food waste going to H-Power right now. 160,000 tons. 60,000 tons of that is residential food waste. 80,000 tons is commercial food waste. So, and Marvin brought this up, his last slide, and this is where I think we need to focus on, is really looking at the hierarchy of food waste management. What was that hierarchy? Source reduction, feeding people, and I see Phil here, food bank here. We've got to feed people, feed animals, eco-feed, piggeries. And then there's industrial use, biofuels. 2045, we have to be using alternative energies, 100% alternative energy. So we got to look at biofuels, the food waste and biofuels. And then there's composting. And then finally, you got incinerator, landfill. When we understand the food waste hierarchy and we apply it, whether it's to your own lifestyle or to a business, you're going to see that change. In talking with Poni and seeing what she's done with farmers' B-grade items and then turning it into a vinegar. And then I asked her, I said, what about the residuals? Because I'm thinking, okay, what is the waste that's there? And in some cases, there may not be any. So, which is good because I really don't want to deal with it. Food waste stinks. I'll be honest with you, food waste stinks. And so if we're able to divert it, and what I'm hearing is, oh, we're diverting it from the landfill. True, partially true. Here, we're diverting it from H-Power. You know, we're diverting it from H-Power, and that is our end goal. We also mentioned about, Marvin mentioned about the city and county looking at curbside recycling. I will talk about that a little bit later. These are ways that the city and county is looking to divert food waste from whether it be, you know, the landfill or H-Power. And it's going to be a long adventure, you know, but once we get there, once we start doing this, once we start believing in the hierarchy of food waste management, we're going to progress. Thank you.
Mahalo, Henry. Dexter, so you've been a real champion of this idea of a circular food system, and you mentioned a little bit earlier about the Oahu Compost Project. Can you explain how that works and how you're working to keep food out of H-Power?
Sure. I guess a couple things on that is rethinking. No, actually, I just want to build a thing to compete with Marvin. That's the real. No. It really is thinking two things. One, we have ordinance, so we have law that says that large guys gotta divert. So that's where Amy comes into play a lot of times. Like, let's get it to our animals. But then a lot, 80, how many tons?
80,000 commercial, 60,000 residential.
Right, so that means we're not capturing a bunch, even though we're focusing on the top producers. Because Oahu's filled with a lot of small businesses. So what are we doing for them? Can we find an option that will help satisfy both economics, but also make better use of all of this really gold that is getting incinerated? The BTUs out of food is much less useful than making it nutrients back to our farms. So what can we do? And along comes an amazing group of folks. Aloha Harvest, Oahu Zero Waste, Sustainable Coastlines, that said, there's some federal funds out there. It says the city's got to apply. What do you think? Sure, write it up. We'll submit. And we did, and we won. Yay! NRCS, yeah, like the proposal that we're going to take a group of restaurants and pull out their food waste. We're going to start slow. We don't want to go too crazy, but start slow, do some pre-consumer waste, and evolve into post-consumer waste to then divert to the biodigester that'll then compost the food. To make a proof of concept, one, that maybe we can reduce tipping fees overall, or not reduce, divert tipping fees to then a food waste track and then the dry trash, and also generate some education material for the greater community to understand how this can not only benefit the restaurant, but them personally. So that's one mechanism. And the school's approach, we applied for round 2 of the same grant, and were awarded to work with schools now to divert food waste. A school meal is supposed to be really healthy, so the thought is really healthy compost, I guess? No, and it is beautiful. And so Windward Zero Waste Hui has done an amazing job at diverting, again, 56 tons a year from 7 schools in the Kailua area to, again, do a proof of concept to work on a bigger implementation. But it is a rethink, because now we're regionalizing and kind of putting waste at the top of your mind, which maybe will help with source reduction. So that's one of the hopes.
Thanks, Dexter. And you think about it, I mean, we live on an island. If there's one place in the world that should be able to figure this out, I feel like Hawaii should be at the front of the pack.
We have no choice.
Back to Amy. You made the call to revamp EcoFeed in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. Can you talk a little bit about how your business has evolved over the years and why you decided to do that during a really difficult time?
Sorry, I had something prepared, but since everyone's just going with their, I guess their heart, I decided not to go with my speech. But I'm sure for everyone, 2020 was a difficult year. Going through the pandemic, and for EcoFeed, a lot of our employees was not aware that we were essential workers. So that kept our business open, and we're able to continue to provide service for our customers. And a lot of people question, how are you continuing to work when a lot of the food establishments are closing because of the pandemic? But fortunately for us, we also provided service for other essential workers, which were hospitals, nursing facilities, grocery stores. So that's what kept us, sustained, open. And also, we were able to continue to provide food waste for the pig farmers. And so they were able to continue to survive. And I was talking to Dexter when we first came in this evening, and he had mentioned that there were a few farmers that he was aware that closed for business because of the pandemic. But fortunately for our farmers, we work, like I had mentioned, we work with the USDA inspector, and we make sure that the farms that we do provide food waste to are certified, USDA certified. So for them, they were very fortunate because we were able to continue to provide food waste for them. And of my knowledge, none of our farmers had to close for business. So that was a good thing for us. And also for our customers, I feel that many of them are recycling food waste because they feel, you know, I mean, it helps to eliminate wet waste from their trash, which is, you know, like I mentioned, less smellier and, you know, clean, I guess, cleaner, but also they know that it's the right thing to do. And I think if, with the education, like Dexter had mentioned, you know, we try to do our part in educating our customers, but I think if there's more education and knowledge in what happens to the food waste and how we can recycle it so that we can come full circle, then I think we would get more people to participate in it.
Thanks, Amy. That's really wonderful. I love how we're, you know, getting not only supporting getting food out of the waste stream, but supporting local agriculture, and that really, you know, from a food security standpoint, I think it's super important. Poni, let me ask you this question. From us, again, the perspective of a small business owner, how do you think local businesses, small businesses like the Hawaiian Vinegar Company, can make a difference with food waste and sustainability?
Yeah, I hope, right? And first I want to just thank Denise for having us here today, because even having the conversation as a small business owner is super relevant, right? Because the more we can have this conversation amongst each other, the more we're propelling that effort forward. And so having that today, Denise, I really appreciate you having us out here. And I have to say, there's a lot of wahiwa in the house tonight. Like, besides Hawaiian Earth, we've got Phil in the front and Bobby. Did I hear Bobby Bunda's here? Bobby. So, I mean, gosh, I'm pretty excited being a wahiwa girl that wahiwa's in the house. But, you know, for me, being a champion of how we really consider food waste within our food restaurant industry, you know, and how do we innovate, having the conversation a lot about value-added products amongst our restaurateurs and our food vendors. I still talk to street food vendors and host workshops for them, and it's something I constantly talk about, is thinking about how you take whatever it is that you're making and make something else out of it, right? And so we decided to do vinegar. My husband is like a geek and loves science, and so he's the brewer, not me. Don't ask me any scientific questions. I know nothing. I know about flavor, right? And so I think the other part of it is having the conversation with the farmers as well, and helping farmers understand that waste is still something that's of value. That's actually been a challenge for us, is for us to convince the farmers that, hey, we want your waste, right? We want your junk stuff. We work with Manoa Honey, and we take the cap of all of his honey that he cuts off, and we make honey vinegar out of it. We're working with Lani Kai Brewery, and turning they have a waste product, right? They actually throw away some of their things that they're brewing. We're making malt vinegar out of it. And so throughout the supply system, it's not just the farmers themselves, but how do we innovate? How do we get creative? And how do you create another revenue stream out of it? Because the benefits are just, you know, three-tiered along the way. And then what do we do with the final products, right? So whether it's feed for going right back to our farmers, because that's a struggle, or is it, you know, I'm sorry, I got 30 seconds. Dang it, I'm poriki. That felt like 1 minute. Anyway, we can keep talking about that. But, you know, it's just education and awareness on all the things that we can make out of the waste that we have. And so that's what inspired the Vinegar Company, and I really champion that moving forward with everyone else.
Mahalo, Poni. It's great to see, you know, we're talking a lot about the corporate sector, how large businesses, small businesses are keeping food out of the waste stream, putting it back into the system in different ways. But Dexter, this one is for you. With the municipal landfills closing in 2028, that's 6 years away. The city needs to find new and innovative ways to address the amount and reduce the amount of waste. And tonight we're talking specifically about food waste. What game changers do you see on the horizon in this area?
Great. I passed that question to Henry. No.
Let me tell you.
a few areas that I think will be really key. Waste, or not waste. I'm going to now have to change it, Poni, to post-food production value add. We're going to have to coin that better. But that it truly is treasure, and it's getting sexier day by day. And I'm really, I like that the conversation is turning there, because the reality is we've got to be able to extract value out of every piece of that circular food system to be able to reduce the import, because sadly that import still is cheaper dollar for dollar, maybe not true cost, but dollar for dollar. So, how do we help Marvin replace all of that imported compost that we're bringing in? We're shipping dirt over water, for Pete's sake, when we can be generating that value here, creating better jobs here, and adding that value back to Hawaii. So those are really key concepts that our Office of Economic Revitalization are thinking about in how we do that, and as we do that and link it back to the grower with great programs like the Department of Ag's reimbursement program, et cetera, how do we help farmers tap into those? Because working with government is scary. So as an office that really relates economic revitalization and economic development with community development, from the ag perspective, how do we develop our farmers to be able to do that? What kind of intermediary group can we get to help them through this process and work with the crazy bureaucracy? And then it's also coming back to the me level. How do I work through this? And am I going to be okay with compost in my backyard or in my neighbor's yard? And that's also kind of the mental shift that we need to be okay with. Or looking at ugly fruit and going, it tastes really good. And when I worked in the school system, we ran into this issue that we started to serve in Kohala Big Island grown oranges, and they grew up in Kohala, and I'm like, they should be used to this. And they're like, oh, but it looks kind of weird. As something simple as that. Or an apple banana that doesn't look beautiful, I don't want that. So how do we change this public perspective? We've been talking about it for a while, but now we've really got to start changing the narrative.
Yeah, and the deadline's coming up, right? So we gotta
It's
get there.
tomorrow, pretty much. At least in government years, it's tomorrow.
The opposite of dog years.
Totally.
So my last question is for you, Henry. So the city and county's come a really long way in terms of recycling, reducing waste, and we've talked about some of the things that are happening in the future too. What do you see as the biggest both challenges and opportunities here in Hawaii around food waste?
Challenges, it's really people changing your habits. We generate food waste. I see it, I smell it. I see it at H-Power. We need to change our habits. And what better way to start than yourself? The opportunities for this are there. Like I mentioned, the hierarchy of solid waste management. We've got to feed people. There are so many people in need of food. And all of us here have that opportunity to feed these people. We have to feed animals, and once again, we have that opportunity to do it. So we really have to think about, why are we generating this food waste in the first place? How can we, and I'm not the problem solver, maybe all of you guys are, but like I mentioned, we have 160,000 tons of food waste in our waste stream. Dexter mentioned about this Oahu composting project. The hope for me is that we look at this old ordinance that's only focused on the large generators of waste and look at all restaurants. What are they producing? Why are they producing it? Where can it go? Can it go to a food pantry? Can it go to a Hawaii Food Bank? Can it go to Aloha Harvest? Could these rinds then go to, Hawaii Vinegar Company so that they can use it. By the end of that product, literally there should be residue. In the garbage world, that's what we call it, it's residue. And after burning, there should be this ash, even smaller amounts. So when I think about waste, whether it's food waste or solid waste, I'm looking at the hierarchy of it. What can we do first to minimize the waste that we generate? And we all have to think about that, because that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Thank you.
Mahalo, Henry. I'd actually like to ask Marvin to join us back on the stage. Oh, here we go. And I think we are ready to take a few questions from the audience. So if anyone has questions, there should be a couple microphones. Oh, right in the back here. So any questions from the audience? Let's open it up.
Yes, actually, I have a couple issues with all of this because, Marvin, for example, your 50% give back on the compost, okay? For farmers, that's not the problem. It's the trucking fees. Because I used to have a farm in Waimanalo, and the trucking fee was $800 to bring $250 worth of compost to the farm. So 25 truckloads would cost me $25,000, of which the compost cost $4,500. So, I understand that, you got to think through this thing of where the costs are, really, to me, if you're going to institute a program like that, because it sounds great, but it really, for a farmer, a true farmer, it doesn't mitigate that much of it, right? That's one thing. Okay, sorry. The second thing is, I live in a condo, okay, now. And, there's a lot of food waste and stuff, right? But you don't have a separate bin for the compost because it smells. But has the city looked into possibly doing something with products like EM, effective microorganisms, to where you have the condo owners spray the compost and it mitigates the smell, at least for a while, before they pick it up? Those are my two questions. Sorry,
Marvin?
I cheated.
Thank you for that question, and that's a great question because we also asked the Department of Ag, and the Department of Ag is also aware of the high cost of transportation as well. And so what we're working with them as well, and talking to some of our state legislators too, is also to incorporate the transportation to get that compost to you as well.
Thanks. And Henry, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll address the city and county portion of it. So EM, Hiroichi. I've talked to Hiroichi. I do bokashi myself, and my hope is that working with Department of Parks and Rec, their community gardens, especially in the really high dense populated areas like Kaka'ako, we can partner. Food waste being generated, large amounts of food waste being generated by a high-rise building. We can partner with maybe a community garden. That's where the food waste can go, or if the community garden, or if the condo tries bokashi, and then, utilizing the community gardens as a place to place the bokashi as well. So I am looking into that. That's been about a year in the making. Hopefully it comes to fruition, but, at times, Dexter and I work together. We different departments, but we work well together. Some other city departments, they may not want to work with me on something, so. But yeah, we are working on it.
Any other questions?
When I was meeting with the panelists, I was looking in my blue bin because we had just gone through our pantry, and my husband had put all this plastic in the blue bin, but I didn't think you could put plastic in the blue bin. So I wanted to ask Henry to kind of tell us a little bit about what goes in each bin, because the other thing that I found out from going to Marvin's Hawaiian Earth Recycling was that you're not supposed to put plastic bags in the green bin, but initially, when we first all got the green bins, they said, oh, you can put a little bit of plastic in there. So I've been doing it, but when I went there, you can tell them how difficult it is for you folks to remove that plastic. Anyway, that's the question, is what goes in those bins?
Careful, Henry. This is also marital counseling, so you choose sides on this one, you might be in trouble.
Let me just give you a little bit of history of who I am. first of all, because then it'll be easy for me to describe what goes into the blue bin and the green bin. I've been in the solid waste industry for a couple of decades now, and I've seen the waste from what it was back into the 90s. I even recycled when I was a kid, up until now. And it's amazing, people still don't get it. You know, here I am, 20 years later, it's like, am I doing my job correctly? What goes into the blue bin, you got 1 and 2 plastic. 1 is polyethylene terephthalate, that's your beverage drinking bottles, your high fives, number one. Number 2 is your high density polyethylene, that's your gallon containers. Normally they come in opaque color. You got your bleach, Clorox bleach, that's white. That's a colored HDPE. Now, people in the recycling world, we all know this, so I'm assuming that you guys know this as well. Your aluminum cans, your tin cans, your steel cans. So any metal container can go into the blue bin. Newspaper, we don't see that much anymore because now we see things, we read things online. That's a big change in what the waste used to be, recyclables used to be. Cardboard, corrugated only. Corrugation is that squiggly line it's sandwiched in between 2 papers, so that's corrugated cardboard. Glass bottle or jar, any color. We talk about, you know, from the state's perspective, they're looking at ADF, advanced disposal fee glass, and high five glass. We say glass, you know, in general, just put any color glass.
So my
there.
green bottles included.
Green bottles, you
Got
can
it.
do it, but what I would do, I wouldn't put it in your blue bin, I would go to a redemption center and get your 5 cents back, is what I would do. But so you got glass bottles or jars, newspapers, cardboard, white colored office papers, and brown paper bags. You know, we're seeing a lot of that now. We do have a plastic bag ordinance in play, and I highly encourage you all to bring your own bag. But I'm seeing a lot of brown paper bags now, so you can put that into your blue bin as well. As far as the green bin, yeah, correct. You're absolutely correct. We were encouraging people to not use plastic bags, and it was really about a convenience issue. And that was done back when, you know, Hawaiian Earth Products was in Campbell Industrial. But now we've changed our tune. You know, we're saying no plastic bags. We see what Marvin is going through. But we also have to think, okay, the average homeowner, what is the most convenient way to put it into a green bin? That's to use a plastic bag. But now our message is no plastic bag. You know, we want to deliver green waste loose. That's our message now.
Yeah, on top of that, Henry and Denise, great question, because after Denise came to our facility, she felt really bad, you know, putting plastics in the non-trash bin. And I think if every one of you here can come to our facility and visit us, and you'll see what we go through on the plastic bags and contamination, and maybe jump on an equipment and help us pick it out at the same time. But our message is clear. It's be maka'ala, right? Be conscientious of what we're doing. This is a new world, and I think, again, we talked about sustainability. You know, it takes all of us.
Mahalo, Marvin. And I've been to Full Circle Farms and saw all the little plastic stickers, the stickers on your apples. I understand the cruise industry has gotten the apple farmers to not put stickers on there just because it's such a difficult piece of non-compostable material. Okay, I kind of wanted to wrap it up a little bit, and we talked about that hierarchy of food waste and thinking about those different things. And I'd like us each to just maybe think of one thing that we could all do on our own, because we're talking about kind of systems-wide change and things that small businesses can do. But you know, what's something that you can do as an individual, as a consumer? And I'll put a plug out for you know, getting food to people. And one thing that you guys might not know, and actually Denise and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, but the best by dates on food is not really an expiration date. It's a trick that manufacturers use to sell more food. For the most part, it just is, you know, most, especially non-perishable items, are good far past that best by date. And so if you're in your pantry and you were, you know, really excited, thought you might use that extra spaghetti sauce or whatever it was, and you haven't used it, you know, donate it to the food bank, to Aloha Harvest, to your local food pantry. at the food bank, food safety is really important to us. So you can rest assured to know that every single item that's donated, we inspect it, we make sure it's safe to distribute. And so that's one thing I think that you can do. If you have a backyard tree, maybe you have tons of avocados or lemons, bring it to the food bank. We'll accept that and we'll get it to people that need it. So open panelist, question for the rest of our panelists. I'll start with Dexter. What's one thing you can do?
I'm going to steal two. As a restaurant, if you have pre-consumer excess food, use folks like Aloha Harvest. Phil's in the room today. Go shake his hand and get his number, because they need more business. No, they don't. Ideally, reduce your source. But if you can't and there's overage, get Aloha Harvest to pick it up and use it for human consumption. And then as an individual, compost.
All right, Amy?
Oh, sorry.
Let's see.
You can steal the composting one.
Yeah. I guess if restaurants do have excess food, I know there is one restaurant that does put bentos together, and then they sell it for a discounted amount, so it doesn't end up in the food waste bin or in the trash.
Henry?
Like I always say to people who listen to me, it's like, really just think about what you're generating and generate less. Think about it, whether it's food waste or garbage in general. You know, if you just look at your waste, you'll know what to decrease in all of that. Yeah, just think about the waste that you generate and generate less.
Poni?
Gosh, I can think of so many things. You know, when we make the vinegar, there is a byproduct, right? There's the waste that comes of that. And I looked at that and I thought, gosh, what can we do with that? Because the whole purpose is to reduce waste. And that vinegar byproduct was the best spice, right? And so we added a little salt and turned into spice. And really the challenge is, how do you look at your waste and see what you can, it's what our grandparents did, right? It's not rocket science. I'm not saying anything new, but what can you turn your product into? And again, not just from a home-based perspective, but for the farmers who are here today or restaurant owners, if you're creating a byproduct, surely it can be something else. It can be powdered tomato spice. You know what I mean? It could be something, maybe the next best packaged Hawaiian product in the state. And so really thinking about it instead of turnkey trash, right? I'll just throw it away, right? No, don't throw it away. Like, it can be something, I guarantee you. I've been following San Pellegrino. They've partnered with an organization, and they're working on creating recipes from waste. And I think that's a pretty cool thing to kind of open our minds up a little bit on what we can do.
Marvin?
Well, we talk about benefits of composting and the nutrient levels, how it can help increase our food crops, our yield, et cetera. And buying local, supporting local, right? But I think many of us here, we're here for a reason, because we have that passion to do what's right, to be maka'ala. You know, we did a program with the Nature Conservancy and the Washington State University a few years ago, trying to save the salmon population in this certain river in Washington. And they used compost for the side of the riverbanks. And what that did was it helped. I mean, we're talking about compost, about growing food, but they're using compost to clean and to purify the water before the storm runoffs. It filters through the compost, takes out all the chemicals and the metals and the hydrocarbons and the rubbers from the tire from going into the stream. And they saved that salmon population, and now it's just unbelievable. So that similar to here in Hawaii, we can do the same of protecting our environment. And I think that's one thing that people really don't know much about, the benefits of composting and the positive effects that it can help our environment.
Thank you. So I heard compost, I heard reduce, I heard buy local. think about new ways to use product. I will just say one thing that I do at home is I have a little big Ziploc bag, and I put all my vegetable scraps and my bones. If I go to a restaurant, I will embarrassingly take the bones home with me in a doggy bag, and about once every few weeks I'll make stock, and it's a great way to make soup, and you're really reducing your waste. So I really want to thank our panelists. This was a super interesting conversation. Thank you so much for your thoughtful responses, and can we get a round of applause for our panelists? And I'd like to turn it back over to Denise to close us out.
I'm going to close. So thank you, Amy. Thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you to Marvin. And thank you to all of you. You guys were great, even with the alcohol. I was shocked. Anyway, thank you for being a great audience. But there was one person that I don't know how much alcohol they got before they even got in here, but left their parking ticket and their change with the parking attendant. So if you've lost it, okay. How much did you have to drink before you got here? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. Since we're nearing the holidays, I wanted to just put a plug in for a cookbook we have out there. It's called Cake in the Kitchen with Mika the sous chef, and it's about a dog. It's my dog who teaches kids where food comes from. So if you haven't seen it, it's a book of that I got 39 chefs to donate recipes to, and all the proceeds from that book go back to Hawaii Agriculture Foundation. So if you're interested, here's the book. And I also have a stuffed animal and some other accessories that go along with the book. I also want to thank our executive chef, Jeremy Shigekani, and the team here at the Prince Waikiki, who've prepared tonight's meal. Tonight's meal was inspired by what you can do with your leftovers for Thanksgiving. So take a look at what you're eating this evening. And I want to thank our presenting sponsors, Central Pacific Bank and Alaska Airlines. Tanya just made me aware of the fact that you guys have now gone to boxed water, and it's really going to help with waste and reducing waste. So thanks so much, again, Alaska Airlines and Central Pacific Bank. Marvin, do you want to tell people about your poinsettia? So Marvin and Hawaiian Earth Recycling was generous enough to donate some of the centerpieces. There are poinsettias and some of these up here, but go ahead and tell people how they win the poinsettias.
Well, when you guys go back and sit down on your have your dinner, don't cheat now, okay? But under one lucky chair on each table or two, and you can take home the poinsettia. There's something for you folks there. There's also a card as well for the a grand prize donated. That picture up there, donated by Reed Takaaze, master photographer of the Kyoto bamboo forest.
And so there'll be a sticker on your chair as well for that,
There will
right?
be a card on there as well, yes.
So I think we've covered the thinking part, and now it's time for the eating and drinking part. So on behalf of Hawaii Agriculture Foundation, mahalo for joining us. And you just can take it, it's all open seating, so you can sit wherever you want to sit, and then the staff will come out and deliver the food. So thank you very much.